Hello, everyone. This is Nidhi from Designhill, your host for today. I hope you and your family are keeping well and safe. And I would like to welcome you all in this session where we are discussing all about blogging and building content that drives traffic, sales, and engagement. Today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike. You can source high quality designs from professional designers and buy unique products created by independent artists. So moving ahead, let me introduce our speakers for today. We have with us Casey Gillette. Casey is a senior director of digital marketing at Co-Marketing, a B2B focused digital marketing agency in Boston. She has been in the online marketing industry for over 15 years, working in both agency side and in-house. Casey has been responsible for developing and implementing digital marketing strategies for both businesses and Fortune 500 companies. She regularly speaks about search, social content, and branding. Casey, would you like to say hi to the audiences?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Super. Up next, we have Tom Pick. He is a senior digital marketing consultant who helps B2B clients improve their online visibility, increase brand awareness, and generate leads. He's the author of The Ultimate Guide to Content Marketing Software, been named to several lists of top B2B and social media influencers, written for leading blogs, been quoted in publications including Fast Company, Forbes, Huffington Post, INC Magazine, and presented at blogging and social media conferences. Tom, please say hi to the audience.
You make me sound so impressive. Hi, everyone.
It is definitely impressive. Up we have Lisa Prakat. She has been in the marketing business for over 25 years and in social media and blogging for 10 years. Her company, Inspire to Thrive, manages over 20 social media clients. Inspire to Thrive saves clients time by scheduling their social media and helping them to generate more visibility and leads. Lisa,
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Glad you could join.
great to have you, Lisa. Last but not the least, we have Maddie Osman. Maddie is an SEO content strategist who works with clients like AAA, Automatic, Insta, and Sprout Social. Her background in WordPress web design contributes to a well-rounded understanding of SEO and how to connect brands to relevant search prospects. Maddie,
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Excited to chat with all these amazing people today.
amazing. So, guys, before we start, we have a couple of announcements to make. You can take the screenshot of this event and tweet about it. Please use hashtag Designhill events and tag Designhill DH and all our panelists' handles as well, whose Twitter handle will be there in the chat given by Harshita, my teammate from Designhill. And one lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. We will also be providing certificates to the event attendees who will be there till the end. So, guys, please don't miss out on this chance. Be there till the end and earn your certificates. Lastly, we also have a couple of offers that are there, and Harshita, my teammate, will be sharing it constantly over the chat section. So please keep your eyes there. So before we start the session, guys, let's quickly look at what Design Hill is all about.
Looking to get your boss to remember your name? Head to the world's #1 creative marketplace, Designhill.
When my company promoted me to head up our latest real estate development project, I was excited, then anxious, then petrified. How was I going to hire the team, get the designs completed, and design beautiful presentation materials on our lean budget while impressing my bosses, some of whom are still learning my name?
Good job, Mitch.
My name's Lawrence. That's why I went to Designhill and got the design help I needed that fit within my company's brand guidelines. The process was simple. Designhill's design contest ensured I'd get a ton of results I'd love. Start by picking a number of designs that inspire you. This one's good, and that one. This one speaks to me. Then share some information about the project. Lastly, pick a package that fits your budget. Do you just want a logo, or do you want it all? Then, boom. I got more than 60 custom design options to choose from, as well as all the other graphic design assets I wanted. And it's all backed by Designhill's 100% money-back guarantee. If I don't find a design I like, I get my money back. You can't lose. Now I have what I need to make a splash at my meetings, with everything from business cards, pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real. pamphlets, posters, and more. It's real.
Let the world know it's real and build your brand with Designhill.
All right, that was all about Designhill, and now we are all set to start the session. Guys, to the attendees, we will be taking up questions during the event. So please, if you have any, please drop them in the questions tab, and the questions with maximum upvotes will be taken up and answered live by the panelists. So I'm gonna straight away jump onto the questions part. I'm gonna simply start with this question, which was actually one of the most asked question by the registrants, that why now during the pandemic, and after the pandemic gets over, is the best time to start blogging, and what opportunities does it bring for the bloggers? Tom, we're going to start with you.
Thanks. Well, a couple of things. One, there's an old expression about planting trees, right? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And the same is kind of true for blogging. If you were fortunate enough to start a blog 10 years ago, you've probably built up something substantial by now. But if you didn't, then now's the best time to do it. And a big part of that is, I'm going back a little bit in history here, but until 2008, actually the majority of searches for business kinds of searches, I'm looking for a plumber, the local pizza place, whatever, majority of searches were still offline. They were still done with phone books, paper directories, newspaper classified ads. 2008 was actually the tipping point. If you think about it, that was just like a year after the first iPhone came out, where things started shifting more to digital. And of course, since then, it's just been, it's just been a landslide that way. When was the last time? I can't remember the last time I even saw a phone book, much less used one. Right now, it's just second nature for all of us to grab. If we have any kind of question, right, grab our phone or flip open our laptop. So blogging is a great way to be answering those questions. Blogs don't answer everything, but they answer a lot of things, and so it's a great time to be getting into that.
All right, I'm going to take like 1 minute and introduce the fifth panelist for today. Maxwell has just joined us. Maxwell, welcome to the session. I'll quickly tell everyone who Maxwell is. He's got really good bio. Maxwell is a totally blind man who transformed himself from a morbidly obese, failed carnival owner to respected amusement equipment broker in the best health of his life. Along the way, he learned so many new skills and so much about himself. In addition to the brokering amusement equipment, he's now an award-winning self-help author, entertaining motivational speaker, and prolific podcast guest appearing on over 200 shows. Maxwell, welcome. So happy to have you here. Please say hi to the audiences. We had already started with the session, but please say hi to the audience and we can continue.
Yes, hello. I'm happy to be here, and I'm sorry to have created a problem, but it just took me longer to navigate the login with the adaptive technology that I use. So very happy to be here. Looking forward to learning a lot and hopefully sharing at least a few things that will help those either starting or growing their blogs.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and making the effort to come here today, despite the problems. Max, we were talking about, how, why now is the best time to blog. And Tom was just helping us with his answer. Tom, you can continue and we can complete, then we can, get to the other panelists as well. Please continue, Tom.
That's all I got. I turn it over to the group.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would add is, what we've seen during the pandemic, especially, is that people are online more, right? So we know people are consuming digital media, especially on their phone, at an increased rate. So, yeah, I mean, I love Tom's point of like, you should have started blogging. I say all the time, like, the one thing I would change that I should have done like 10 years ago is started a YouTube channel. Like, these people are making millions of dollars doing dumb things. So, like, it's not that hard, start blogging now for all those reasons.
Right. And one thing about it is that even before COVID, it was not only a great way to create content, but it was also very beneficial to our mental and emotional well-being, because as I tell people, if you are an author, a singer, a filmmaker, when things aren't going your way, you write, you sing, and you make movies.
Right. Absolutely. So, Mary, you got anything to add to that? That I'm sure you're trying to speak. You're on mute.
Oh, here we go. So I wanted to say something that's really interesting. I work a lot in the WordPress world, and up until this year, WordPress powered somewhere around 33% of the internet. Going into the end of 2020, it's like 39.3%. And that's because so many people have been building websites, starting new projects during the pandemic. I think it's important to sort of talk about how we're in a pandemic, and Maxwell brought up mental health. It's hard to be productive when you're stressed out, and this is a very stressful time. And so don't put undue pressure on yourself. Don't make it into, something where if you're not accomplishing your goals, that you're being hard on yourself. Think of it more as like a hobby or a passion that you could start now and then build into a business if that's what you want. But don't let this sort of like hustle culture make it into something where it's not a fun thing. And the only other thing I wanted to say is economic recessions are a great time to start a new business or a new thing. There's a lot of opportunities, even though it might appear otherwise.
Great insight. Great. I completely agree to that. And Lisa, we would love to have your 2 cents on this as well. Please go ahead.
Sure. I was going to say it's a great time to start a blog and selling online because people are much more comfortable online today. And they're very comfortable buying online where they weren't 10 years ago. So that's a huge difference in my mind.
Great. Right. So I'm going to quickly jump to the next question, which is about, having a typical blogging niche and how to choose one. I mean, I know that, people write about what they are good at. Let's say if I'm good at, cooking, or maybe writing about, writing travelogues. So that's something that I have an interest in. But that particular niche or topic may not have that relevance or searchability factor on the internet. So in the long run, when we try to monetize or when we try to kind of build on our website and the content and the blog, is it really important to have a blogging niche? And if yes, then how to choose one? Max, we're going to start with you.
Okay. Obviously, it's important to have a blogging niche. However, we don't have to put the pressure on ourselves to figure out what that niche is from day one. In a lot of cases, people will either start with too narrow a focus or too wide. And as they create content and see what people are actually searching for within a particular field of interest to them, then they can adjust it as they go. There's a lot of blogs and podcasts in the area of self-help and personal development, as well as in visual impairment and disability. Mine happens to be a little bit of both, so I'm probably the worst example of picking a niche. But I think the going back to what one of the other ladies said, don't put undue pressure on yourself. The most important thing is pick a niche, or as they say on the freeway, pick a lane, and go ahead and start. And as you create content, as you hear from people online, you're going to find out more and more what exactly your specific piece of that niche is. We have people who all they write about now is vegetarian or vegan baby food. So it's just a matter of starting, in my opinion.
I agree with that completely. But I also want to reflect upon the research part of it. So definitely there are blogs that are doing better than the others. And if I want to start a blog today, I might have to do a little research, looking into what will be the most searched by the audience. And if I don't have any interest, I would definitely do that research. So Casey, would you like to, throw some light on the research part of it, that, how can we do that research? What are the most searched blogs or most searched keywords, let's say, and how to go about it?
Yeah, I do want to just go back for a second, and I think, thinking what Maddie had said about like mental health and thinking about starting a blog, I think what's there, your blog isn't going to perform well for like 2 to 3 years, right? Like, I think that's the standard. Like, we know, like,
I agree completely.
right? And so you have to write about something that you actually are passionate about or you're interested in, because that's a long time to wait and not see the rewards. I think people expect, I'm going to start writing about this thing, and all of a sudden I'm going to have people coming and reading, and that's not really the case. But you can help yourself with the research. So there's a ton of tools out there that will show you the types of things that people are asking about. So personally, like, I use a tool called SEMrush all the time. They have this great like content analysis thing. You can see the types of questions people are asking. Another tool called FAQ Fox that I love, because kind of the same thing. Reddit is a great place for information. And there's actually Reddit, it's like reddittool.io. It will basically scrape all the subreddits for a particular topic and tell you what the questions that people are like, what the threads are and questions people are asking. And I also am a big fan of forums. So like, I think of forums being from like the 90s, and a lot of them still look like they're straight out of the 90s, but some of them are very active, because when you think about that niche element, there's people who are very passionate about things. And so, go there and see, hey, look, like, if I'm into knitting, what are these? There's surely forums out there about knitting. There's surely places on the internet where people are talking about this. What are the things that they're talking about, right? That'll at least give you a sense of, here's the direction that I need to go, or that's something to give me a sense of what I can write about that's going to interest my audience.
Right. Completely agree. We can't undermine the importance of research at all, and there has to be like some reiki at at what you're looking to do if you're meaning to start a blog. Tom, Maddie, Lisa, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say that you have to be passionate about your blog niche, because it's what makes you get up early every day and start that writing and start that process, and be willing to change along the way. Be agile, because things change. Your niche may change, but there's another little niche related to yours that you could expound upon. So that's what I would advise.
Yeah, Tom, I saw you trying to say something. Yeah.
I hate to be an echo, but I do have to agree with both Casey and Lisa on the importance of passion. And I think Casey especially hit on an important point. I think the big secret to blogging success is persistence. As she noted, you're not going to have a huge readership in the first year or two. To be successful, you really have to stick with it. And it's just human nature. And I think Maxwell might agree with this. It's really hard for any of us to stick to something that we're not passionate about. So that passion really is vital. Also, as far as the tools, SEMrush is great. There's another one called SERPstat, which is kind of similar and also does a great job of helping on the research side of finding those topics.
Right. Can I ask a question about this area? We've been talking about passion and emotion. To me, another big element of sustainability is curiosity. Is it something that you just can't wait to find out something new about?
Right, Matt.
So a couple of things. I agree with everything that everybody said, especially the passion. You're just going to get bored so easily, and you're not going to want to, spend your weekends or your nights building this up on top of what you're already doing if you're not excited about the topic. One thing that I recommend to new bloggers who are trying to figure out that niche and trying to sort of justify their direction is, take where you think it is and then write out 100 blog ideas. Just sit there, think through different categories, think through different takes. That'll help to reveal to you if you're passionate about it and if there's enough content to write. In terms of doing research to justify your niche, so one thing I would recommend if you have a lot of time and patience is reading through Google's search quality rater guidelines. It gives you a lot of insight into how Google perceives content and what they consider high and low quality and what meets needs and doesn't meet needs. And one thing they talk about is your money, your life topics, YMYL. And those tend to be the the niches with the riches, you could say, because it's stuff where it's like finding a college, you know, having a healthy lifestyle, stuff like that, where it's like the advice that you're giving is affecting the outcome of people's lives. With that said, there is a higher standard of quality that Google expects with that content, which is why I would suggest like looking deeper into that, looking at their guidelines and understanding that. And then as far as tools, I'll just throw another one out there. I really like Ahrefs. It's Ahrefs. It's really similar to SEMrush. It's very similar to SERPstat. The things that I look at in terms of how do I like find a topic that I could monetize and that is still rankable, you know, still something that I could succeed at. I look at things like keyword difficulty. Is it low enough relative to my website's domain authority, which is, you know, getting a little bit into the trenches here with SEO terminology, but just as a high level, something to think about. I also think about what's the cost per click. That's something that Ahrefs and SEMrush will show you. Comparing sort of like the organic search data to the paid search data is a great way to see, is this something that people are spending money on if you're looking to monetize your blog?
Absolutely. You actually touched upon the very topic that I was going to, you know, ask in my next question, which is Google ranking. And, you know, you write a lot, you create a lot of content, you know, and I'm sure that, you know, attendees are actually making a note of all these pointers, the name of the tools and the tips that, you know, writing, let's say 100 good ideas about the content that you're going to write about in, let's say, another 6 months. So yes, so let's talk a bit about content. And you know, there are some technical questions that our registrants have also asked us, which is like, you know, is there an ideal frequency or the word count for a blog to drive traffic, or it doesn't matter at all? I mean, you know, I'm sure that, you know, because I've been a blogger myself, I use this tool which tells me that, you know, the ideal length of the blog should be more than 500 words to be able to rank on Google, and it's a free tool. So we have these free tools, but I would like to, you know, like, you know, hear from you guys. What is the ideal frequency, the word count, and other technical aspects related to blogging? Tom, can we start with you?
There's a lot of research out there. If you, as we all know, if you do any searches, or you'll just see reports pop up from time to time on posts should be longer than a certain length, or HubSpot has done a lot of work on blogging frequency and showing the correlation of frequency and time. But really, again, getting back to a couple of things from the last section, being passionate and being curious. To me, the ideal length is whatever number of words you need to cover the subject adequately and do a good job of it. And the ideal frequency is as frequently as you can write content like that. So rather than setting a frequency, I'm going to post 5 times a week, and then you end up, you know, doing 1 decent post and 4 pieces of crap. Instead, focus on how many really good posts can I do every week. That's going to be what helps you in the long term.
Yeah, and I would also, go ahead.
I love that because I talk to people all the time about sustainability, but I never talk to them about quality sustainability, which is what you're talking about there, and that's just brilliant.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, there's no one answer to this question, because it's just like everything else in marketing, and especially search, like it depends. You want to look and see what's currently ranking. So if I'm looking to rank for a specific term, or I'm looking for a specific phrase, I want to look and see what's already there. Because what you might find is that, you know, there might be 2,000 word articles, but there might be an instance where they're just very short pages, and all it's going to take for you to rank is creating something a little bit better. So it's not necessarily tied to like a certain length. It's really dependent on the topic, on the keyword, the type of content that's already there. You know, the more competitive you get, like the more competitive phrases you get, the longer you tend to see that content be, right? Or the more comprehensive you tend to see that be. So it's really just a matter of looking to see what's already there to determine that. But to Tom's point, like, yeah, to make it, what's the point? What's the goal of your piece? You want it to address like the topic. You want to make sure you're giving your users an answer to a question or something that's actually useful to them versus just writing to write.
Right, and right when you're talking about content, it's also important to understand, the kind of audience that we want to address, and then finding out that target audience and what platforms to choose to get to that target audience is also very important. Maddie, would you like to tell us, as to so there are 10,000 topics and blogs that gets written, but how do you reach to your target audience and how do you figure that part?
How do you reach a larger audience? Is that the question?
Yes, the target audience, which is the audience obviously that finds your content in your blog relevant.
Sure. Um, so I think it definitely comes down to keyword research. That's a huge part of it. Understanding your audience. I think everybody needs to, when they get started blogging or as they sort of get into it, take some time to define your persona. What are their demographics? What are their psychographics? Where do they tend to live? What's their age? What other things do they like? Until you have this profile of your customer, it's going to be, or your reader, it's going to be very hard to create content that speaks to them because you're kind of all over the place without a guiding plan. In terms of like recency, frequency, things to do with blogging, what I always tell my clients is as long as you're posting, like once a month or so, as long as it's consistent versus, 5 times 1 month, 1 time the next month, 2 times the month after that, it's better to be consistent than to have a lot of quantity because Google's looking for like, is this site maintained? They just want to know that they're not recommending their searchers to a website that like maybe a hacker got a hold of because you let it sit for 6 months and then a plugin got attacked and you just don't even know. The other thing I was going to mention from a tool perspective in terms of how long should the content be? I use a tool called ClearScope. It is probably not cost effective for the average blogger, but for somebody who's trying to build a business and monetize their content or who runs a content team, I would absolutely recommend spending money on this. And basically what ClearScope does is you feed it whatever your primary keyword is, and it goes into Google and it basically reverse engineers like the top 10 results for that phrase, and it picks out different entities, like sort of these like short and long tail phrases that appear within all this top 10 content. And then it tells you, are you using it enough? Are you using it in headings where it should be used in headings? What's the reading level of your content? How likely are you to rank with this content based on how effectively you're using these terms that tend to show up? So what it also does is it reverse engineers those results, and it tells you how long the average piece of content is. So totally that word count is driven by the topic. I would agree with everybody else who said that.
Absolutely. Yes, we do agree. So before we jump to the next question, there is one question which is asked by Dafina in the questions tab. Okay, so she says how to remain relatable, especially between changing generations. So how to create for all millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, etc., who claim to be so different, or should I focus in just one? Max, can we start with you?
I don't think this is an area that I would be best at. My gut instinct would be that you either have to write the way you write and figure out which audience matches up with you, or you have to pick one of these age groups. But I would prefer to defer to one of the other experts.
Okay, Tom then. Tom.
I'd kind of say the same thing as Maxwell. I don't know I'm the best person. Again, my focus is B2B marketing, and so in B2B, I think the generational differences mean a lot less, far less than in consumer marketing. In B2C, in B2B, it really is about understanding the your target audience's issue, what's their problem, how can you help them solve that, and write just very clearly and directly. Try to keep jargon out of it. Just be very clear and direct about how you can help solve that problem, and I think that resonates across generations, because if you're a person working in a business, regardless of how old you are, if you're facing a certain problem, finding out what the best solution is and finding that out again in a very clear, concise, direct, non-jargony way is going to be effective.
Right. Lisa, do you have anything to add to that? We lost you in between also.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because some of my blogging audience is much younger, and
Yeah.
I think they like more shorter form content. And the reason is they want answers right away. They want everything right away.
Yeah.
So whether you're doing a video or you're writing a blog post, it really should be short, direct to the point.
Yeah, and Maddie mentioned earlier about like tools that can give you some of that data. You know, unfortunately, like if you're just starting, like you don't have data on that, like in your own Google Analytics. But one of the tools that I use is called Storybase, and one of the cool things that it does is if you put in like a keyword, it gives you like the typical demographics for that search, so you can start to get a sense of like who are the people who are actually looking for that. But I think it's hard. I mean, if you have a product that, or you have something that reaches all generations, you know, you should just be writing for what that product solves, I guess, or who wants it. But I don't know too many. I mean, that's interesting. If you have something that reaches across every generation, I'd love the answer to that too.
Great. So we're going to cover a lot of technical aspects like SEO, and the most asked question by our registrants of more than like 300 people registered, and all of them asked about monetization and SEO. We're gonna discuss that in the latter part of the event. But for now, we will quickly take a break, and I hope you guys are enjoying the session, the speakers as well as the audiences. Before we move forward, I would like to give a quick shout out to Designhill for organizing this event. Let's take a quick short break and keep this interesting conversation going on.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on, and it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, you know, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and, you know, makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right, welcome back, everyone, and we will quickly jump onto the next set of questions. And let's also address the elephant in the room. I'm sure that most of the attendees have, are attending this session because they want to actually hear more about monetization part of a blog, and a lot of people find it difficult. How to monetize a blog? As simple as that. And what are the key things to keep in mind? Casey, can we start with you?
I'm actually going to defer to the other panelists on this one. And the reason being is that, the majority of clients that I work with, they have products or, services. So certainly would love to hear what other people have to say.
Okay, then Maddie, would you like to take this question?
Sure. So there are multiple different ways you could go about monetizing. Don't feel like you have to go for one just because that's what somebody else is doing. I think one of the simplest ways is using affiliate links for products and services that you love and that you can passionately speak to. I think it comes across less genuous, is that the right word? It comes across less genuine when you're talking about stuff that like you've never actually used, and just because they have like a high affiliate payout and like every other blogger is doing that and making a lot of money on that. Try to actually help your audience. It's not just about you. Don't make content for the sake of monetizing it. Make content that makes the internet a better place, that helps other people find great products. So that's one way. You could also create products. You could create digital products like ebooks. You could sell sponsored posts. That's probably the way that I make the most money on blogging, besides sort of the offset of getting clients and, working on their content for them. So sponsored posts, the way to monetize that is be able to show them some stats, especially as they relate to that brand's demographics, their target audience that they're going after. There are several ways. Ads are another way. I think the thing with ads is that sometimes you sacrifice some of the user experience depending on how many ads you're throwing onto your website. So that's something to be careful about, but something where a lot of bloggers are making a lot of money.
I absolutely agree with you. Max, we saw you saying something. I'm going to unmute you and then you can, 1 second. Okay, Harshita, if you can hear me, can you please unmute Max? Oh, there seems to be some technical issue. I'm not able to. Okay. Max, we can't hear you because you're on mute. I'm trying to unmute you. One second. Okay. We will have Tom answer this question. In the meantime, we'll unmute Max. Yeah.
Well, again, like Casey, most of my clients are B2B, so that's, it's not really direct monetization. I will say, just from experience, a couple of quick things. Advertising, as Maddie mentioned, is one avenue. It's really difficult to make much money there unless you've got a very large readership. So don't, I mean, if it fits, do it, but don't count on big money from that. I've done affiliate programs as well. Again, that can be challenging. I think what I'm finding out is one of the keys to success there is rather than signing up for 100 different affiliate programs and kind of being random about it, is to pick just a few that you can really speak to sort of passionately and really focus on those. I do some work with a local company that's a little startup, 4 guys. They're competing with MailChimp, which is huge.
Yeah.
But their differentiator, the company's called SendSquare. Their differentiator is they use AI, so it will actually apply artificial intelligence to show you what's the best time to send your email to each segment of your audience based on when they're online, and also help sign subject lines that are most likely to get open. So it's a pretty cool tool. Like I say, they're local. I love helping them out, and also that's that kind of thing. If you're able as a blogger to find a few companies like that you can kind of be passionate about, that can be a way to monetize that is genuine and makes you feel good about what you're doing, even if you're not making necessarily a ton of money doing it.
Yeah. Am I unmuted, y'all?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. I just wanted to, while Tom was speaking about it, I was hoping that you will introduce me to these gentlemen, because one of the things I struggle with is email programs and accessibility. and I would love to review their service for its usability with screen readers and possibly endorse them at some point. So if we could make arrangements for you to introduce me to those guys, I would really appreciate it. And then as to what you were speaking about, you're right. Starting with small companies where you're not making a ton of money off of them. The idea is to find companies that you can grow with together. Yeah. And one of the things I recently discovered by accident is even in the early days, sometimes your blog readers have products that they want to advertise, but they don't see themselves as a company with enough money to sponsor a blog or a podcast. But in a lot of cases, they have the budget. They just don't think they have the budget because they assume advertising costs thousands of dollars. So sometimes one of the best things you can do is reach out to your regular commenters or readers, start building relationships with them, find out what their product or service is, and then reach out to them and say, hey, how about we partner, help each other grow?
Absolutely amazing. The relationship building part was a really good insight, and this we definitely should not shy away from partnering and collaborating with like-minded people, and who we can grow each other with. So, Lisa, do you have anything to add to the monetization part? I'm sure you have. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I didn't hear anyone talk about teaching online. If you have classes online, you can promote those in your blog. That's just another stream of income. I started doing that recently with an Instagram class. So that's just another avenue. I agree everything what you're saying on the affiliates. I love Agora Pulse. I use that for my social media management, and that's an affiliate program that I have on my blog. And one of the mistakes I made when I first started blogging 10 years ago, I never put call to actions in my blog posts. It took me years before I realized. So for new bloggers, remember to have those call to actions in the blog posts, because that's a big one that I had missed.
Right. Also, I want to specifically throw some light on the Google AdSense part. So, once your blog is ready, there are some policies and some guidelines after which the Google actually, approves of your blog and they start listing their ads on your blog. So how to go about that? I know that, there are a couple of guidelines that there should be more than 30 blogs and there should be a privacy policy and all of that. There are a couple of things that Google asks you to do. And once your blog has aged enough on the internet, then it actually starts putting up your these ads, and when someone comes and clicks on it, you obviously get paid, and there's a Google AdSense account there. So if anyone of you can throw some light on that, how that happens, and how is it a way that we can actually get in talks with Google and tell them, because when I started the Google AdSense thing on my blog, Google randomly placed any ads on my blog was about food and travel, and here I see a plumbing machine being advertised on my blog, and I actually wanted to get to someone and ask how can I get rid of it, or maybe there's a way I can get to talk to someone in Google. I don't know if that's a possibility or not. So how to, this is a problem which is personally being faced by me. So how can we can get rid of those problems, and how to go about it? Maddie, I'm sure you have a lot to add here.
I don't have a lot of experience with Google AdSense, mostly because it's one of like the lower paying ad networks. So for most bloggers, it's probably not going to be worth messing around with. That said, most ad networks will let you specify either certain sites to block in terms of what ads you display, or like full categories. And so I actually had a client this year who was running some display ads, and they're like a B2B business, and they had some like ads from Breitbart like associated with their content, and it just like wasn't a good look because they just, they don't take political stances, and that caused a huge uproar, and they had to work with their ad agency to make sure that that was just unilaterally taken down. Their ads were running on Breitbart, I think it was. Either way, not a good thing. But by adding categories and adding restrictions, most ad platforms will let you do that. So I think it's a matter of just being conscious of like what's showing up on your website, like periodically auditing yourself and, asking the question, is this what I want to be associated with?
So, right, right. Thank you so much, Maddie. And Tom, I would love to hear from you as well on that.
I think Maddie did a great job there, and I don't know that I have a lot to add, although I would, again, emphasize her last point. I've worked on a few blogs that have used AdSense, and generally over time it does a pretty good job, but there are things that pop up. She mentioned the right one. I saw one, it was a technology site, and Google was displaying ads for an Asian dating service, which really, that's fine, but that wasn't really applicable to the blog, so we blocked that. In another instance, competitors' ads were actually showing on the site, so we very quickly blocked those from displaying. So you do have to keep an eye on it, but the AdSense platform is pretty straightforward without getting into the technical details. It's pretty easy to find on the platform how to do those things so that you can keep the ads on your site relevant and not displaying anything that for competitive or political or any other reason that you don't want to be promoting.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tom. Next up, we are actually touching upon a very important topic, which is SEO. Most people, including me, find it very technical to understand, but I'm sure, we actually have to start somewhere. So, if each one of you can start, telling us, at least like 2-3 pointers as to what SEO is all about, and how, that it is not a very difficult to understand, and you actually don't have to have like a digital marketing degree in it, because I come from a different background altogether, and I have a lot of people telling me that, a good digital marketing course maybe will be helpful to you if you're trying to get your feet in blogging, because SEO is a very important, crucial as well as technical aspect of it. So Lisa, let's start it with you, and let's please throw some light on the SEO part of it and how we can understand it. I mean, some pointers in there.
Yeah. I've always read up on SEO constantly, reading everything I can. I'm really happy that in the past few years, SEO has been more about the reader experience. So it's not so technical. There used to be a lot of black hat, stuffing keywords. Those days are gone. So it's much easier. But there are other things that I find a lot of new bloggers are not aware of, and that is like internal linking some of your older blog posts to your new blog posts. Another big one was orphan content, which is posts that are not linked to anything, or pages of the website that are not linked. So that was like one big discovery for me. It was actually a year ago, I redid a lot of the blog posts on my site, because updating your posts, keeping them fresh, is another big factor in SEO. A lot of people think they can just, do a blog post, leave it, forget about it. And I do some client blogs, and I like to do the same for them, is update all those posts, put some fresh content in there. It's almost like redoing the whole post in some instances. So those are just a few things that you can do to help the SEO of your blog. One other last thing is having the correct headlines, the H1, H2, H3, the title tags. That's just another thing that a lot of blogs I've worked on have not been done. So those are a few things that I recommend to all new bloggers and other bloggers out there that may not be aware of those tactics.
Absolutely. Inbound, outbound linking is also something that I learned recently, and it has helped me a lot. I mean, in terms of page views and, connecting one blog to the other. Also, tagging and, interlinking an outbound website, which might be or add some value to your particular blog. So that's right. And thank you so much for that. Max, do you have anything to add here? The SEO part of it?
Yeah, when it comes to search engine optimization, I don't have any great hacks for them. We need to use the standard keywords. But one thing I did recently learn, and it encourages me because it's managed to help me solve a problem online by telling other webmasters and blog owners this. Google and the other search engines for a while now are actually indexing the alternative text for your images. So one of the things I have to tell people all the time is, for the visually impaired and disabled visitors, please add the alternative text to your images and to your video links. Well, it turns out that that is now part of, or should be part of, your SEO, because those descriptions of those images are crawled, and they can result in people finding a blog post that they wouldn't have ordinarily found just by Google trying to interpret the images that are on your website. So just another place where you can add a little extra help for the search engine to find your amazing work that you just released to the world and that you're wondering why more people aren't reading yet.
So Tom just shared a guide, which I think is really helpful. Like, there's a ton of resources on the web, but I think what you can read as much as you want about SEO, and you need to have a fundamental understanding of what it is, but like, you learn SEO by doing it, right? By testing things. The one thing I will say is that if you're just getting started and you really don't have like a lot of knowledge about it, most CMS systems at this point have an SEO plugin, right? And so they tend to make it pretty easy to optimize your post without having to do much. So, you know, I think most people are familiar with Yoast, which is like the primary SEO plugin for WordPress, right? And, you know, you don't need to do every single thing in it, but it can at least guide you if you're unsure of where to start, right? It kind of walks you through it, and it can make sure that you're setting up your site in a way that makes it crawlable and indexable to Google. So I think there's some good places to start that if you're unsure, like, you know, check out some of the guides, check out what people are saying, but you put these plugins in and then start testing things to see, hey, if I change this title tag, what happens, right? If I add this link, if I add these links back, am I seeing an increase? And then you'll start getting the sense of what works for your site and your space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I use Yoast all the time. Yes, please, Maddie.
So to Casey's point, yeah, these SEO plugins, that's like the best entry level way to start to understand SEO. That said, the input you give the plugin is what will eventually make you successful or not. The use of the plugin is only as good as the input. So just because, you know, in your head, you're like, oh, you know, I have an e-commerce store and, you know, I really want to rank for women's black heels or something. And so you just put that keyword in. It's like, okay, well, where did you get that keyword? Is it realistic that you're going to be able to rank at the top of that search? You need to do keyword research to validate that. And keyword research is something where it's not easy to get right when you first get started, but that's no reason not to try and to start to get into the practice of that. I also wanted to say to Maxwell's point, accessibility is good for SEO, especially as it relates to image alt text. And Google image search is one of the biggest search engines on its own. And so what I usually recommend to people is whatever your keyword is, implement that into the keyword alt text, but in a way that describes the image. Don't just be lazy and put the keyword there and call it a day, because again, to Maxwell's point, it's not going to help him if it just says what the keyword is, but it doesn't actually explain the context of the image within your blog content. One thing I also wanted to say is that I've heard a lot of bloggers as like a fly on the wall in Facebook groups and stuff like that, talking about, oh, you know, I don't want to bother with, you know, having to, you know, do all the SEO stuff for my content. Like, you know, it just kind of like ruins the content and makes it harder for people to read it. I think in the past that might have been true when we were doing things like stuffing keywords and, you know, trying to adapt to Google's like initial algorithms. So Google recently released a core update called BERT. It was actually like a year ago, and they've had several core updates since then. But BERT stands for bidirectional encoder representations from transformers. I had to look that up. But what it means is that Google is using natural language processing to better understand search queries. And the way it used to work is Google could only read the search query one way, you know, the way that we would read text. And it couldn't necessarily make sense of the words within that query and how they relate to each other backwards and forth. So now BERT can read the text both ways. And because of that, it can make more sense of things. And because of that, we can be a little bit less exact with exact match keywords that might be super awkward to use and hard to implement in your content. And so the good news is that Google is getting smarter. But the same core principle has always been true and remains true, which is if you create great content, and you do just the bare minimum really to like signal what that content is about to Google by using your keyword in the meta information, in the URL slug, in image file names and alt text and things like that, then guess what? If it's good content, Google's going to recommend people to it. And as their algorithm gets smarter and does a better job of matching people to content, your content is still going to rank. And so like, just to give you a quick example, my first blog was a Chicago lifestyle blog, and I wrote some article about how to get free Lollapalooza tickets. And that content still ranks number 4 in search for free Lollapalooza tickets because fundamentally it was based on good content.
Absolutely amazing insights, and these are tiny nuances that makes a lot of difference. Thank you so much, Maddie, for sharing that. If any of the panelists have anything to add on the SEO part, please go ahead. Anything.
Very quickly, I did, as I think Casey mentioned, I did share a link in the text or in the chat, to something on on-page SEO that I think is helpful. It's an interactive kind of thing. I would echo Maddie that the main thing is just to write good content. Don't worry about keyword stuffing. Concentrate on being the best answer, and basic things like not having broken links and other things like that on your blog. And one more thing is there are the tools we mentioned a couple times is SEMrush, and that's a very high-end, professional, sophisticated kind of SEO tool. It's probably not something. Probably not something that the casual blogger could afford or even want to use. But there are some very simple tools. Traffic Travis is one. And then if you use the software rating sites like G2 or Capterra or TrustRadius, you can find others that are like that are very low end, basic, $100 or less kind of starter SEO tools. Which if you're just getting started with it and don't know a lot about SEO, those tools can really give you a good foundation. At least they won't make you necessarily a pro, but they'll get you through all the basics and help you out with that in a very understandable way.
Thank you so much, Tom, for that. And I'm sure the people have actually saved this particular link that Tom has shared in the chat section, which is very, very helpful. We are actually towards the end of the session, but let's quickly take questions from the questions tab. We already took one, and there's this another one by Peace. Please, which website is best for starting a blog? I think it's a very plain question, and there are a couple of platforms there, but let's hear it from you, Max, first.
Well, I'm biased. If we're talking about a platform for a blog, I'm a WordPress person. It's mostly because of accessibility and the fact that they truly want me to be part of their community and use their product. They not only invest a lot of time and money in making it user-friendly to screen readers, which, trust me, is not an easy task because there are multiple screen readers out there and multiple skill levels of the people using these adaptive technology options. So that, plus at their WordCamp events, they always have speakers on the latest in accessibility and making your websites and your blogs inclusive. So I'm a WordPress person. It's a fairly robust and easy to use platform. And just one thing I wanted to mention before I forget about it, because it was really important in the last segment. Tom mentioned broken links. There are a couple of very easy plugins you can get to check to make sure you don't have any broken links on your website, or that you're not linked to websites that have them. Would definitely advise using those so that you don't get on the bad side of Google. And also think long and hard before changing the names and URLs of your own links, because you could be creating problems for other people's websites, and you could be hiding content that's already become great searchable content by changing its name.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say is, again, I love WordPress as well, but if you're thinking about what to use, I would just remember, make sure it's yours. So a lot of times, and what I mean by that is when people start blogging, they're like, I'm just going to pop on to like Medium or like, Tumblr or something where I don't have to set anything up. The problem with that is if you then decide, well, I want to have my own domain name and I want to keep this content, you have to then move all that in like a copy and paste fashion. So any like SEO authority you've built up, any links that you have aren't going to be transferred to that new domain. So I'd say just be aware that you're setting something up that's yours and you own and you could administer.
Great, great. Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question, Peace. We have the last question by Mudassir. He says, practically, how much difference a topical authority makes to rank well for high competitive keywords? I mean, it's too technical for me to understand, but I'm sure the speakers must have understood that. Do I need to recite the question again?
I think I can answer this.
Okay.
So when I'm doing keyword research, one thing that I like to use is the Moz bar. It's a Chrome extension. And if you sign up for a free Moz account, you can use, you don't have to pay for Moz to use it. And what I'll do is like whatever keyword I'm considering as my primary keyword, I'll type it into Google and I'll turn on the Moz bar and it shows me who is ranking in those top 10 results in terms of like their domain authority. And so we didn't touch on this today. Content is one part of SEO. Your website's technical structure is another big part. How fast it loads. Is it mobile friendly? Is it secure? You know, stuff like that. We also didn't talk about getting backlinks. And so backlinks are ultimately what defers authority to your site. So if I get a backlink from, you know, Time magazine or something, that's going to lend authority to my site because they have more authority than I do. And so basically domain authority is just the measure of how many backlinks are pointing to your site. So if I'm trying to figure out, can I rank in relevant search, turn on the Moz bar, look at the results, look at their domain authority and compare it to mine. Is mine smaller than that? I'm not going to rank. Is it bigger than that? I could probably rank. So that's oversimplifying things, but hopefully it helps.
Great. Thank you so much, Maddie. Anyone have to add, wants to add anything to that? Okay. I guess this brings us to the end of this wonderful session. There's a lot more that we would have discussed. Indeed, a value-packed session, but we are limited by time here. And I hope you guys loved the session. Once again, I'd like to thank Casey, Lisa, Maddie, Maxwell, and Tom for taking our time to be a part of this event. Any last thoughts, guys? How did you like the event? Did it go well?
I took a
Tom.
lot of notes personally.
Yes.
Yes. I did want to throw in one quick addition to Maddie's excellent comment about keywords and ranking, and the importance of keyword research, because often you might find a keyword phrase that's you're just not going to rank for it because all the sites on top have such high domain authority. But by altering the phrase just a bit, by adding another word or something, you can actually make it something that you can rank for, and there are tools that help you find those keywords. Again, that's a little bit higher level, but that's a way to kind of get around that situation when you're not going to be able to rank for something because it's too competitive, but you can get really close.
Sure. Thanks, then. So on that note, we are actually going to wrap up the session. Casey, Lisa, Maddie, Max, and Tom, thank you so much for being here with us. And we actually want to do one more event, the follow-up session on the blogging, because there are a lot more questions that are unanswered still. So we hope that you agree to do another event with us, whether it is a workshop or an AMA or a panel discussion again. But we would love to have you on board once again. All you guys, thank you so much once again. And this is not where it ends, guys. To the audiences, we have a lot more events lined up for you in the coming days. The next event is a panel discussion on the power of high quality media in e-commerce. So if you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, my team will be putting the event section link in the chat. Please go there and visit and register as well. To stay updated with events like these, please follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give us suggestions on the topics you would like us to cover and the speakers you want us to host. I'm dropping the link of the LinkedIn page in chat section again. To watch the session and other such wonderful events, subscribe to our event section on designhill.com/events or visit our official YouTube channel, which is Designhill. The link will be there in the chat section again. For all the business owners who are listening to this and wish to source high quality graphic designs, please make way to designhill.com. We recently also have launched a DIY creative tool called Designhill Studio for the upcoming designers or even a non-designer who can create beautiful designs such as business collaterals, presentations. It's for everyone. So guys, do check it out at designhill.com/studio. studio. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Take care, guys, and stay safe.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.